understand having kids at home running around makes it difficult sometimes to get on a Zoom and show your full situation. I actually had to like do something with myself and everything, so I get it. But thank you everyone for coming to our cyber awareness workshop today. We're gonna go ahead and get started because I have my notebook and my pen and I'm ready to learn. Voila. This is our last session in the summer series for now that we have planned, and then we are cooking up some more good workshops and get-togethers for our group so that we can just continue to stay connected. So if you have ideas, and so many people have been throwing out great ideas, but if you still have them coming, please put them in the group discussion. Don't be shy. Introduce yourself, tell us what's on your mind and what ideas you have that will help us all to stay connected. It's hard enough when things are normal, but now that we're in this new normal, we really, really need to be innovative and creative, and just don't find yourself alone on a little island, because you don't have to be. So with that said, I want to welcome Joe. I will ask that he please introduce himself, and we'll get started with our cyber awareness workshop. Okay, Joe.
All right, thank you very much, Shannon. Again, it's a great opportunity to be able to speak to the group. I love what you guys are doing. Want to take this opportunity to just share something that's really in what I do professionally, but it's really something that, you know, at home, I can tell you that these things come about. Our kids, you know, they have fits about things that they may be nervous about. There's the boogeyman. Well, you shut the door, there's a little crack, you leave the lights open. But again, that nervousness is really not about a boogeyman, but I do want to tell you what to be careful of. Let's talk about cybersecurity, because there's things that go on that is very real and it's hitting kids at all ages. So I want to get you to the point that you understand some of these things that we're talking about, but not just from a perspective of, you know, being aware of things that are dangerous or things to be concerned about. There's a lot of opportunities, and I'm going to talk to you about how to go from what you need to do, you know, just from a family perspective, to what are we really looking at as far as opportunities for our children. And then we'll have a session at the end where Shannon has asked me to be able to talk with the kids. So whatever group we have, you know, it's really straight talk about, hey, what's meaningful out of this whole thing. So, but please, at any time, if you have questions, you know, I'll sprint in my speaking, you know, so I can go fast or slow, but it's really something that I want you guys to be able to take on board and feel comfortable enough just to ask any questions that's on your mind. Just a little bit about my background. I'm Joe McMahon. You know, as a husband and a father, I'm really a Herbie Life member. I've been with Shawanda for, dear, how long have we been married? This is 29 years now, and we've graduated 4 kids through the homeschool system, and you know, it's been an incredible journey. But you know, for me, I can tell you, you know, looking back, you know, it's kind of an interesting story, but you know, I was a constant daydreamer, and I still am. I'm a habitual student. I've been in school more than my kids have been alive, you know, and I still take classes all the time. You know, I'm fascinated by things. I'm a STEM mentor. You know, I work with groups nationally about how to put together STEM events, money, and opportunities for students, because what we want is, you know, it's really a national imperative about what STEM means to a healthy country that has job opportunities, has national security, you know, economic engine. And STEM is one of these opportunities that in school is kind of one of those things that the critique is, it's just the latest phase. Well, I need to make it more meaningful to people. But professionally, I deal with cybersecurity. I started a program called Zenith Challenge Program back in 2009. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see some aircraft. These are drones, and back in 2009, people can now spell STEM or UAV. What I did was I took high school students, I put them up against international university students from the top schools around the world that were developing drones. Out of 32 teams, my high school team placed number 20. These kids had never worked together. They were average students by design. I said, go get me students that are not A students. They're just regular students and they have the potential. And we put them together and we put them with industry professionals. And once they got into this competition, it went so well. People from Congress and the Navy and other organizations were going, how did you do that? Well, I actually learned that methodology by working with a band, believe it or not. I'm the chair of the Engineering Advisory Board at Norfolk State. I've been with Norfolk State's advisory board since 2010. I'm on my third term as the chair for their Engineering Advisory Board. Professionally, I spent 20 years flying Navy aircraft, did that active duty. I went from being an enlisted guy to an officer. There was a program that I just happened to be fortunate enough to become a part of. I did Navy ROTC through Morehouse University, or Morehouse College. I actually graduated from Morris Brown College, got a degree in business management, and I have my master's degree from National Security. Now, the aircraft that's up in the upper left-hand corner, that's the S-3 Viking. It's a carrier-based aircraft. Fantastic opportunity. You could not have told me as a kid that I could ever do something like that. It seemed too remote. And again, I'm looking back on it going, how do I get people to believe that they could be in that position? The aircraft carrier down at the bottom is the USS George Washington. I was also fortunate enough to be the assistant navigator, and I was responsible for the operations and navigation of that aircraft carrier. So it's been an incredible journey for me. But I got to a point where I just recognized that these are things that people can't even imagine. And so I wanted to hit them right where the imagination starts. One of the challenges that we have is with a lot of our kids. If you look at any group of kids, this is probably the typical picture that you're going to see. Everybody's working with a cell phone, and they've gotten to such a young age. You've got this in their hands, and this is where I want to start about the cybersecurity awareness. Then again, if you have any questions along the way, please jump in. I'm talking about cyberbullying. We've heard of it. What is it? Anytime that you can use the internet or technologies to harm people in a deliberate and repeated and hostile manner. What's going on? How do they get to you? The kids are chatting, they're texting. They've got applications that you have no idea that they have on their phone because it doesn't look like that type of application. But they're communicating with one another, and they get into these little cliquish things. And, unfortunately, there's many, many ways that they are communicating with folks, and more times than not, the kids aren't comfortable enough coming to their parents to explain what's going on. There's the flaming where they have these online fights. There's the outing where there's some secret that's coming out just because you can do this. And once it goes over the internet, there's no getting it back. There's no erase button that's truly an erase button that gets it out of the digital world. Once it's there forever. As parents, we didn't grow up with that. We can make mistakes, and I've made plenty of them. I'm so grateful that we did not have Facebook back then. I'm so glad that we didn't have, a Twitter account, because, there's many things that, we did that fortunately we grew up, but we grew out of it, and there's no record of it. For our kids, it is a record of it from the time that they get that little device in their hand and can click the button. And so there's some things that, yes, they'll grow up with different challenges. You want to be president of the United States? Let's talk about that picture of you when you were 6 years old. That's not what you want. And so being able to talk to the kids about things that are happening, it just has to be a conversation. How do we talk to people about what's going on? And again, our kids become so much smarter. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I know these things happen, and I can be perfectly honest with you to tell you I couldn't protect enough. These things are going to happen. And so, the best thing that you could do is try to be ahead of it. and as the kids have their challenges, they can always come back and go, I didn't know, and I thank you. And there'll probably be several years that'll pass before they come back and do that, but it's good when they do. So, the cyberbullying, the effects of that is really these kids are having some mental issues. And it's a big challenge. When you guys are looking at my screen, are you looking at just the slides? Or are you looking at where I have two presentations, or the next slide?
I see cyberbullying effects, and I do see a small area that says next slide.
Okay. Yeah, that's not what I really intended for you to see. I wanted you to be able to see the whole presentation. So I got a note to see if I can adjust that. Let me see if I can just.
Okay, that's better. Yep. You did it.
Okay. And let's see if I can make this the. I have no idea what I just did. So my goal was really for you guys to be able to see the whole slide here. So, Shannon, if I can just. I'm sharing my screen, so let me see. I'm going to do a new share and see if I can. I don't know if that made a difference, but anyway, I'll continue to work through.
Okay, it looks good.
All right, so the cyberbullying effects are, the kids, their confidence. If they go to school and they believe that someone has, knows their deepest, darkest secret, it's hurtful to them. And the kids, they start acting out in interesting ways. These are signs for the parents to figure out, what, not just the emotion that they're going through, what's the cause of that? And a lot of times these are things that they have in their hand, and they just, they're walking around with this machine that's allowing that to happen. And what you don't want to get into is where they have suicidal thoughts. And that occurs quite often. The statistics are pretty alarming. Yeah, what can you do? Well, you can take some action. They can take action, encourage them to tell someone. You certainly don't want them to start doing the same thing, or encouraging the kids to ramp it up. Get them to block those folks. Even when you block them, sometimes there's another channel that they come in. They go, oh, you blocked me, so I'm coming back with something stronger. Just, you got to always be able to understand there's different channels that these things happen on, and these kids are connected through a multitude of means. But, if you can block them, but log out of the device, log out of the channel, but don't put yourself in that situation where you become a bully. Sometimes the kids that have bullies, the bullied kids, sometimes their parents become bullies, and that's just one of those situations that you want to try to avoid. Identity theft. This is something that at a young age, you can capture someone, you can capture, the birthday parties that they're having. So what their birthdays are. You can pretty much determine what year they have, and that's pretty powerful information. At work, for the government, we try not to have anything that's disclosing someone's birthday, because it's very powerful. That's a universal request. Let me get your birthday so I can verify who you are. But for your kids, when they're celebrating their 5th birthday, there are people that gather all this information and they keep it for years until it becomes worthy of, harvesting and doing something different with it. But just notice that, as you celebrate your birthdays, hey, if it's your 25th birthday, if your 30th birthday, if your 18th birthday, they can put the day, the name, the sex, what year you were born, all those things. And this becomes part of what they want for identity theft. And then they can pretend to be you. They can pretend to be a member of your family. This is how they get your tax returns. This is how they get some benefits that may be yours. And sometimes it's gotten into situations where you're not even you. You have to go defend that you are actually who you say you are because somebody else has beat you to the punch. They say they're you. And again, this is the identity theft that you have to be concerned with. what are they really after? If they can get your social security number, that's a great find for them. If you don't know, the first 5 digits of your social security really has to do with the location that you're from, your state, your county, and then the last 4 is unique to you. So these things are sequential. So a lot of times you can tell, you can't really do it as much anymore, but you can tell generally if you had the last 4 of someone's social security number, you can figure out the rest of it, because on Facebook they're advertising, I grew up here. They can figure out the county, they can figure out your parents, they can figure out your friends, they can figure out so much that they can come back and get that information. Credit card information is a little bit more tricky to get, as well as your bank account, but some people just don't realize that there was probably an email that came in that they responded to, and they gave all that information away. And then 2, people are trying to get to your passwords. There's a variety of ways to get to your password. In the email here, you used to get these all the time. Hey, yes, did I buy something from Best Buy? Yeah, I did. Was it right? You know, there's many times that you'll get a lot of emails that look like stuff that you do, and they just throw out all these emails, and they're just hoping that they get one that will bite on this. It's called phishing. And in phishing, you know, if you look up here for the who it's from, and sometimes you can't see it unless you click another link there to see what the email is. It says, hey, it's from Best Buy. If you look at the email address, it's something that someone created from another country. And so it's not actually a Best Buy email. It's something that if you click on any of those links, they're pulling your information. If you fill out the forms, you've just given them more information, your credit card information. You might think you're working with a dispute with people that are trying to help you, and all they're doing is gathering your information. And so these are some of the dangers of that identity theft. And, you know, once they get your credit card information, you know, they can purchase things, they can put you in a real financial bind. So what can you do to protect yourself? Well, just be a little bit more conscientious, look at the emails, what's in there, what can you identify? And a lot of times I won't click on any of the links, I'll actually call the company to see if that's legitimate. You know, look for the scam tip-offs. You know, if it's coming from Best Buy, but you know that the only thing you've ever done with Best Buy is purchase with cash, easy enough. You know, that's not for you. A lot of times these things are done by foreign countries, and there's bad grammar and spelling in it, so you can detect it that way. But you know, they've gotten very sophisticated. They're very good, and it's billions of dollars of, you know, people's income that's being affected. Being able to protect yourself, you know, there's some different ways, and I'll highlight that as I go forward. Passwords. Now, passwords are a hard thing to remember, and a lot of people have them written down. You know, if you have teenagers, don't think that your teenagers have not found your passwords and used them a couple of times. You know, again, they're very clever, but you know, again, some of it is just out of curiosity, and some of it is one of those things that you go, hey, we really, really have to have a uncomfortable talk. But you know, when you have words, you know, the length is important. You know, if you do a 4-digit password, it's not very strong. As a matter of fact, a lot of things now won't even let you put in a 4-digit password. But if you put in all these numbers or this combination that's so unique that you can't remember it, that's hard. And so, you know, writing stuff down, you know, becomes your go-to. But again, someone can find it and it becomes a problem. Believe it or not, having 4 words that have nothing to do with each other is a stronger combination than having this characters, capitals, spaces. So if I say jump, rock, height, car, 4 unrelated words, but that's a very strong password. You know, they can't have a pattern to it. You know, it's not something that you can see a passage from a book. It's not a Bible verse. It's not, but you have to have combinations in there. So there's things that you can do to make it more easy to remember, but you definitely have to make sure that you have strong passwords. If you find that there's something that you think you've been affected by, you can actually get free credit reports. These are the three main credit agencies, and they'll give you a free credit report. If you think that you have been wronged by something that looks like it's large scale, Federal Trade Commission, you can lodge a complaint there, and they will help you work through some of those things. If you have a credit card and that gets violated, there's usually credit card protection. But if you use your debit card, the challenge with that is your debit card has no protection. So if you put your debit card out there and it gets compromised, you really have lost that. And it's between you and your bank whether or not your bank is going to try to protect you. So that's an important distinction between having a debit card, which is great if you don't like having credit, but if you have a credit card, you have credit protection. Computer viruses, of course, parents, that became a real big deal. Now Microsoft is probably the biggest provider of all the desktop software, and they have things that are built into it. So they are very good at protecting things like the Trojan horses or the viruses. The viruses are things that just propagate all the way through. It spreads. The Trojan horse is something that you're going to click on something and activate this bad actor. And so, we don't see it as much anymore, but it's out there. And again, these different devices, these different applications, maybe it's operating in a different way, but it's global. It's a hard way to do it, but what can you do? If you have software and all those things that they say update now, and if you have a iPhone, I know that iPhone is now at version 13.6. Look at your iPhone. If you're at 9 point something, you're in danger. So I would say make sure, look at your phone, especially with iPhone, and Android has its own version, update your software. The reason why they keep updating the software a lot of times is because of the threats that have gotten so sophisticated, they're getting to your devices. They're getting in your devices. When they get in your devices, they're getting to your pictures. They're getting to all the credit card transactions that you've done over your phone. They're getting into a lot of things that you just wouldn't want them to have. So again, the updates are very important. So when you see things online and, hey, click here and do this download, the downloads are things that you really have to be careful of. And a lot of times, and I've had some very frustrating moments with my family, all these new apps, all these games, and they've become very popular. Everybody wants them. And they get upset, Joe, how come you won't play on this game with us? I don't do that at all. Because what's happening is they become so popular, that's the quickest way to get things into your phone that's giving away your information. So for me personally, I'm not a gamer on, Candy Crush, Angry Birds. I'm not into all of that because unfortunately, I've seen where that stuff has been very harmful to people. And as much as I say it, I've been the victim of it in my own house because, again, not everybody's going to listen to that message. And it's just one of those things. Those that can are better situated than those that can't. So for the internet, one thing that, unlike anything else in the world, I spent 20 years in the military. I've gone around the world. I know what a threat looks like, in a physical sense, but with the internet, it's unlike any place else. A high school kid can be a dangerous thing to a nation. A high school kid can be a dangerous thing to a banking industry. And these kids now are learning ways around things that, it's not always because they're criminally minded. Sometimes it's just curiosity and they can get to things. And it's amazing at how young the threat can become. And it's not always a threat. You have to learn how to channel it. A rocket is nothing but a bomb with a way to guide its explosion. And so with our kids, you want to look at, hey, there's all these things that can be dangerous, but at the same time, how can we use that same energy so that we move them in the direction we'd love to see them go? But with internet safety, we can't always figure out who that citizen is, that community, that country that's starting it, or the victim of it. And so nothing is immune to cyber risk. You can be the Apple and Microsoft and Google, they spend billions of dollars trying to protect themselves from themselves. So, Internet of Things. Can anybody online tell me what the Internet of Things might be? I mean, it's a newer term, but give me an example of an Internet of Things. Anybody? I'll go. You have Ring cameras. You have video doorbells.
TV.
You have
televisions. Yep.
televisions, Echoes, Alexa,
Refrigerators.
the refrigerators, all of these things. And you know what? It's not going to stop.
Oh,
It's
wow.
going to go. All of these things now are connecting to the internet. And you can be very secure on one thing, but you can be very weak on another. And I'm going to talk to you about the weakness of things that are coming in and making this huge impact, and you have no idea that this stuff is going on. That's the challenge that we're dealing with. So I talked to Shwanda a little bit, and I said, well, we really don't wear these type of bands that much, but again, a lot of us have had the Fitbits and used the Apple Watch. The military was stunned by what it found. But it was not just awareness for the military. I'm going to talk to you about awareness for yourself too. Anybody know what this is? What this might look like?
Looks like a neighborhood map.
It does. So what this thing is it's actually a heat map. And what it means is it's not hot. It's picking up a digital signal that's so small it would never show up on that. But where the lines are brighter, it's how many digital bits that it got in that particular location. So from a satellite, it can tell what a Fitbit watch, was sending a signal from a Fitbit watch that could be picked up on a satellite to say, this is my lat long. So when I'm running and it calculates how many miles I'm running, that's what it's picking up. But this happened to be a military base overseas. And so over in Afghanistan, here's this area that people are seeing this information. The only people that could afford that type of equipment were in the military. And so these were soldiers that were running around, doing their physical jogging around the facility. They were also driving for perimeter protection, and it gave the whole layout of the base. You can see which ones are more heavily traveled. And so it became an immediate threat to U.S. forces. And it was just amazing because here it is, all of these things are showing up in basically a country that had no real infrastructure. And it could identify everywhere our troops are traveling. So here's a little bit more about what it was looking like. So they realized that our military members were in deep trouble. Now, for you, the same thing is happening. Through your watches, through your phones, we can figure out what religion you are. If you're showing up at the same church around, if it looks like the churches are being populated, by the same members on a Friday, you're probably Catholic. If it's happening on a Saturday, you're probably Jewish. If it's showing up on a Sunday, they know which denomination you are. So again, these are things that our phones are giving us away for things that we just can't even imagine. It knows when you go to the grocery store. It knows when you should be at home and you're not. It knows when all these different things are happening. So these are things that we use out of convenience, and we love them. We don't want to give them up. But, do we really think that we would ever want to give someone all of this information? And now we can't turn it off. And so, that's one of the challenges with our teens. It's nice to know where your teen is. Sometimes when they recognize where to turn it, how to turn it off, unfortunately, we've had some incidents where teens have turned it off when they really needed it on. And so, it's a double-edged type of issue. Here's a case where, hey, we have all these talking devices in our house. It's great. Play me this song. Hey, what's the temperature outside? Turn on the TV. Make this phone call. And those things have wake-up words. Well, there was a conversation that was taking place at a home in Portland, and it thought it had the wake-up word. Alexa, that's the wake-up word. Well, the family may have never said Alexa, but it's always listening. It's always trying to hear a wake-up word. And when it does not hear the wake-up word, it's supposed to not record. Well, it's always recording. One of the gifts is that as people have all that conversation going on, they can refine all the voice, automated voice detection. And they're really good at it now. But what they end up doing in this case right here was sending the audio device to someone, or sending the audio recording to someone in Seattle whose number was stored on that family's contact list. It's amazing that, this thing that you just think is this innocent device that's just in your house for your own entertainment has the potential of sending something very dangerous to someone else. I'm going to give you a little bit of a shocker right here. Maybe you guys have seen this before, but I'm going to play this clip, and, this is how close to home it can get.
As 8-year-old Alyssa LeMay stood in her room, a terrifying voice spoke to her. I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my best friend? The horrifying sound coming from this Ring security camera installed in a child's bedroom, which she shares with her two sisters.
I come upstairs, and I hear some banging noise. I was like, who's that?
For 5 minutes, the voice taunted the young girl, playing strange music, even instructing her to destroy her room. You can mess up your room, you can break your TV, you can do whatever you want. The LeMay family installed the camera just days before the device was apparently hacked.
I watched the video, and I mean, like, they could watch them sleeping, they could have watched them changing. I mean, they could have seen all kinds of things.
This just the latest hack of an in-home security camera over the weekend.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to adjust the volume here.
Florida family says they were spied on in their living room. Can you bring like a web browser up on your phone and then type in the website that I tell you? No. And earlier this year in Washington State, the owner of this Nest camera recorded a hacker harassing her family. Nest did not respond to our request for comment, but Ring says in the Memphis case, their security was not breached, adding hackers often reuse credentials stolen or leaked from one service on other services. To protect your privacy, security experts say you should use a strong and unique password. The longer, the more secure. Change them often and set up two-factor authentication to ensure a hacker has to work twice as hard to break in, something the LeMay family admits did not do. I'm Santa Claus. This morning, the LeMay family still on edge after the device that was supposed to make them feel safe did anything but.
Okay, so again, these are things that, these are helpful things to you. And again, that idea of this is in a well-lit room, the young girl is there. Can you imagine that happening at night when she was asleep? Or you as a parent coming in and that's what's being spoken, in a dark lit room. This is very real and happening on a regular basis. But you know what? We buy it and we put it in our rooms. We put it in our house. And again, we want these things to be so convenient for us, but just recognize the dangers.
Yes. Joe, you have a question
Okay.
from Andrea. She says, if a device is on airplane mode, is it still listening? Is it still listening or reporting?
That's a good question.
Yes, it
So
is.
when you go on airplane mode, what you're basically doing is you're taking down the internet signal. It's not supposed to be able to transmit or receive the Wi-Fi. But can it record? Well, it's really a function of the phone. I'm not really sure on that answer, but it can
We
certainly
had to
be.
get rid of Alexa and everything.
So,
Mary, I was thinking the same thing.
Sorry, I accidentally unmuted myself. But I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I didn't mean to unmute myself, but I don't know what to say. I am utterly shocked.
Me too. I was wondering the same question that Andrea asked about if it's off, if the device is off but plugged in, should we anticipate it's still listening or?
I would say that our knowledge of being off is being changed. And again, things that we think are off, over time we learn have always been on. And so even when we think that we're shutting off our phone latitude, longitude, it's still on. And so these are things that, may be advertised in one way, but they have a caveat that they've never told us about. And then these things are getting exploited. And then we find that, it may have been safe to do that before, and now we learn that it's not. So again, these are things that aren't that obvious to us, and we have to learn. So here's something, 15 apps parents should know about. Kids will quickly cycle through these things, and no matter what I put on here today, tomorrow there's something that's far worse. And again, so I may have given you good information, but it becomes outdated so quickly. And again, the kids have so many things that they have at their disposal. They're talking with these other folks, they're introducing these things, and you really can't stay ahead of it, even despite your best efforts. Many of these things you probably heard of. TikTok, very popular right now. Trump says he wants to shut this down, make a U.S. company buy it. Snapchat, there were some terribly embarrassing things that were going on with Snapchat. And again, one of the things about Snapchat that was so popular, kids were sexting pictures to one another. So here it is, your son's or daughter was just all out there. And, the picture stays up for a little bit and then it goes away. Well, knowing that you can actually save the image to your screen, even though Snapchat is going to delete it already, the kids already know that they can hold on to that picture if they want to hold on to it. Down in the bottom middle is calculator app. That was to fool people that it's a calculator, and that's a secret channel for communications. And, videos, files, and just things that they can share with one another, so the parent has no clue. My innocent 4.0 student is doing great stuff, and then you find out what's on this app right here, and I would tell you, it will hurt you to your heart. So never believe that all things are what they seem. I had some people introduce this to me, and I thought it was a brilliant idea, a family contract for online safety. Set the expectations early. You know, don't make it where you say, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this and not do that. Because all you did was introduce oh, it'll come back to me. And I've lived that nightmare. But early on, I mean, I cannot imagine, kids below 16 getting cell phones. And here it is, they're complaining that kids that are 9 years old running around with cell phones all the time. And now that's pretty much the norm. Any kid who's in school has their own cell phone, even at kindergarten. And it's, wow. Okay, so the danger starts that early. You guys are homeschoolers, and so you're looking at more ways to protect your kids. But, their peers out there have already figured this stuff out, and they're going to introduce stuff to your kids that you think that you've done a world of wonder by keeping them safe, and you just, can't imagine what's happening even when it's in front of you. So if you give your kids this contract for online safety, there's an opportunity for you to at least set the expectation. If it's broken, you can take it back and say, hey, we had a contract, can you, if you can't honor that, then let's restart when you can. But at least you have a framework of expectation that's in writing. They can always reflect on it. And believe me, it does get to their minds. But if they can circumvent it by any of the agreements, like, hey, I did wrong, you took it away, you told me it's going to be 3 weeks, and the next day you gave me my phone back. Well, guess what? I can take the next level. So anyway, this is a good opportunity for parents to consider. Some of the takeaways I want you to know right now is that, you really, really have to understand that there's no way to stop this stuff from happening. As good as we can get, there's no way to prevent it. So you really have to get to the core of what people believe. Maintain an open dialogue with your family and friends about what's going on, because your friends might be your safety net. Hey, I really don't want to show you this, but you got to know. I don't want to be a snitch, but you got to know. And again, you might save a kid's life, because this is really how strong these things are happening. Your passwords, again, it's, you need strong passwords, and you think that, hey, if I just write it down, this will be good enough. Well, again, it will get discovered, and it will create some challenges for you. But if you use like 4 unassociated words, like if I say dog ran fast, jump, those are things that dogs can do. But if you go, dog rocked, elephant, car, completely unrelated. There's this tool called a rainbow. What it will do is it will search for every word combination, every pattern combination, and so the most complex passwords can get broken before 4 odd words. And so that's why we say 4 odd words are your stronger defense. If you see stuff that's available online that looks too good to be true, the sites themselves can look legitimate, the emails can look legitimate. Those are things that you really, really have to be careful of. And again, keep your system updated. But one of the workarounds that you have is your privacy settings. Every time they bring you into a new tool, Facebook or whatever, Facebook has got things that's advantageous to them. They give it to you free, but you're their commodity. They're selling your information. You're not selling your information. They're selling your information. And again, all this stuff they're harvesting from you, and you're giving it away. Well, if you get into the privacy settings, fortunately, there's some laws that says that they have to protect you, give you the option at least. But know that you can get into the privacy setting and do something. Overseas, they call it GDPR, which is, if I had not said it, I would have remembered. But the idea is that outside the United States, companies are prohibited from collecting information on you without advising you that that's what they've done. If you were to go over to Europe, if there's any company that has information on you, they must disclose to you that they collect this information and they must have your permission because you can opt out. Well, Facebook and Microsoft are constantly facing billions of dollars in fines overseas. But you know what? It's more profitable for them to pay those billion-dollar fines than it is for them to change their methods. So that's the terrible, obvious truth. And so, just know that it's out there. The best, the only safe thing to do is never to use the internet. But then again, that's not a convenient thing to use or, to do. And so a double-edged sword at all times.
Yes. Joe,
So,
we have a question for you.
yes, ma'am.
S. Johnson would like to know if we can have a copy of that contract to share with our families.
So, there's quite a few that you can find on the internet. This presentation, Shannon, I sent to you. So if you want to send it out to the group, feel free to do that.
Great, thank you.
And so people can really look at these things, talk about it, and figure out, hey, we can do something a little different. But, there are quite a few examples of the family contract. And again, I just encourage you to take a look at it, talk with your kids. But, you got to have that power of, hey, if I'm paying for it, and don't even put it out like that, if I'm paying for it, because they'll go, well, now that I'm paying for it, I got all these rights right here. And I tell my young adults that still need a roof over their head, you're still under the roof of the rules. And so in this chart right here, the cyber threat is real. These are huge numbers. How long does it take to resolve a problem? Much longer, 30%, 33% longer to resolve the issues. What's the global cost of cybersecurity against consumers? $113 billion. How many scams, probes, and attacks per month? 41 million. The intrusions to critical U.S. infrastructure. These are our power systems. These are our banking systems. 17 times over the last three years. That's how many more times, this danger is hitting. And the average cost of resolving a single cyber attack for a company is $1.6 million. Those are some huge numbers. But because of that, it also creates opportunities. And that's really where I want to talk to you about what to think about for your students and their education. Talk about the opportunity. Understanding the IT industry. A lot of people, when they say IT, it is hardware or it's developing. It's many more things. So, percentage-wise, software comprises about 18%, devices and infrastructure, 17%, 31% around IT services. There's emerging technology, and then there's telecom services like the internet, the stuff that actually passes the signal. It's a very diverse world when we talk about this, but our students have it. It's one of the things that they're walking with the capabilities to grab all of this and know everything about it without a cost. Here's a sad, it's good and bad at the same time. Experience counts. Right now, our kids are more likely to try to follow what they know other kids are doing. Other kids are more likely to say, I got a job at Chick-fil-A or one of the restaurants, and they'll go, hey, I'm making this much money. Well, you as parents are educating your kids. You're probably using some tools that's gaining some experience for them. If they're taking tools that are related to anything in programming or IT or cyber, they're gaining experience. They're getting years of experience. I would say document all the classes that they're in. So the difference between someone starting, really, we got kids that are starting out at $8.33 an hour, and maybe they stay a few years. They stay through the college years, or they stay through, to about 22 or whatever, and they're not really making much different from, what the cashier and fast food salary is. but put them over on the other side with just even the basics of the information that they're learning from coding and IT. That puts them in the range of being able to get $12 an hour just starting out. So that's $24,000 a year. That's a significant difference. There's 50% more money that they can make just by the things that they can be walking into just because they did the classes at home. So the experience, you know, you don't need much experience to be a cashier or fast food worker, but they're probably taking the same classes. If you get them to focus on the idea that there's a job market out there for them to easily walk into, you know, they can go into $12 an hour up to $33 an hour. Edward Snowden, you guys may know him as the guy that's in the news that was the hacker and he fled to Russia. Well, when he was 18 years old, he was making $30 an hour. And it was stuff that he just learned on his own at home. He had skills. And so for our kids, you know, don't just go, I need a job. Say, I've got a set of skills and I can go use them in a place that can use me. Again, the trade-off is you get compensated. And so fewer people will look at that route, but the opportunities are pretty great. I realize that, you know, for the screen that you guys are seeing that these numbers are very small. It's an eye chart here. So we talk about executive leadership, you know, getting to the top of the game for the salaries. I would tell you that on this chart right here, being in the senior leadership experience, you know, being in the lower 25th percentile is $124,000. Being up in the 95th percentile at the top tier is $300,000. That's happening plus bonuses, and it's a really wonderful opportunity. When you get down into software applications and development, you know, this is where our kids are gaining their experience, and the salaries are, you know, 75,000 and up. And you know, this is a chart. As a matter of fact, Shannon, I need to send a salary guide to you. So make sure that after this, I send that to you. Wanda, that's your task for me, okay? But I want to send this out because if you guys look at this right here, what I'm telling you is that I'm going to talk to you about not just having a job, but running something that you can really be passionate about. I'm talking about removing all the barriers to making a comfortable living in life with stuff that your kids probably already, you know, have some affinity towards. If I were to say, hey, let's do some training, you know, at a high school level, I've got some things circled here. Java is a program that's been around for a while. It's established, and we have a lot of people that learn Java. I don't know how many people remember basic computer programming language and COBOL and C+, C#. You know, the C# is still relevant, but if you look at the bulk of things that were programmed before, it's lines of code. So you may have something that's, you know, quite a few lines of code, and now you look at these kids that go to Python and they write a single line, and it's like, wow, you know, you've just solved this big problem with a single line that used to take a lot of programming before. So our young students are being able to really go in and make big results with fewer coding problems. And so Python is a very good language for our students to learn. All this stuff you can actually start learning for free, which is amazing. And it's on that device that I told you could be harmful. And so you don't want them to not have a device that they can't look at it as an opportunity. Mary, you still with me? Because if so, Mary's son sat through a class with me, and I was teaching them all the basics of the A+, which is really learning how a computer operates. So a computer operates through all of these components that are on the inside, but we connect it to the internet. A+ is going to teach you about all those things that will make you successful with operating a computer for the internet. They have another course that's called Network Plus. It's making many computers operate together on the network. I'm changing my value proposition on that, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And then there's Security Plus, you know, which is around the language. But here, when I look at all the skills that are in demand, if I were a parent that's saying, hey, where do I start? I'm going to tell you guys that I'd recommend that you have your kids start on Java, Python, and pursue a path to get an A+ certification. And they can do it while they're still in high school. And I'll continue to talk about why that's so important. But again, looking at these top certifications, as your kids start to get a little bit more involved when they get into the workforce, someone will say they have to have years of experience to move into it. But someone who starts at the age of 16 really on the track, you know, by the time they are ready for the workforce, they're eclipsing the people that are college graduates. This is a roadmap. This is really an eye chart. I don't want to go down it. I just want to hit some things that kind of give you some idea of what we're talking about. So from the left, you know, it talks about, hey, a beginner path all the way up through the expert. Down the right side, it talks about things that are really the areas in which we pursue these paths. One is information security. I have to be responsible for everything that's on that right side if it's going to in any way affect my organization. So I have people that are really into each one of those areas. For me personally, I'm in the information security. That's where I have to focus because everything that we introduce is a vulnerability to our operations. So if I have a passion that this is where I want to start, I'm going to go for security. I'm going to go for cloud technologies. I'm going to go for web programming. I'm going to do mobile apps. I kind of have an idea of where I want to be. And then I'll talk about, well, where do I start someone who's just a beginner? You know, if you've got some experience, where do I want to focus you if you know, got some intermediate skills? And again, our young students can actually become experts at such an early age compared to what we as adults have had over our lifetime. That is, it's really mind-blowing. And again, you'll find that they can have what will be the equivalent of about 5 careers in a very short time frame. You know, you're still in your 20s and you've done all of this? Yeah, and I'm a little bored. You know, here I am, I'm, you know, a little gray now, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. You know, but with this right here, you can truly allow your kids to not be confined by one particular thing. If you recognize the pictures here, this debate goes back a long way. So on the left, we have W.E.B. Du Bois, who was really all about education, making sure that people are college educated and so they can think long strategic thoughts. And we absolutely have to have that. On the right, we have Booker T. Washington, who was more into, we have to have hands-on practical experiences that we start right away. Well, this argument kept them at great odds, but, you know, both had very valid points. So what I say when people say, hey, should I go to college or should I go this route right here? I'm on the board of colleges. I've been a college professor. I've taught for many years of my life. I will tell you that, you know, my opinion won't be popular at the college because I understand that kids can do this without the college degree. Now, there's going to be reasons why kids should pursue college also if they want to do that. You know, it boils down to your personal considerations. If you look at your kids, what's their passion? You know, what really excites them when they get up? What are their talents? They may have a passion for something that they're not very talented in. You know, those things happen. What are your personal desires? Do you have goals? You know, my goal is that I will become a doctor of something. Great. You know, we don't want to deter anybody from pursuing things like that. What kind of quality of life can you imagine? Like I said, for me personally, I could not have imagined as a kid the quality of life that I enjoy today. I couldn't see it. I didn't know anything around me that had that. And it always looked like it was reserved for the other side. Now I'm trying to own it. And I'm trying to share that ability for people to see at a much younger age. You know, some people are going to say, hey, I want to be status. Some people will say, hey, I want it to be relevant. You know, in the end, it has to be affordable. So how can you do these things right here? I was a little bit harsher on my kids because, when we said, hey, college, I said, you're going to have to use your brain to make this thing affordable. We're not just going to say, hey, pull out the money and put me through school. This is your efforts. If 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 we can make it work, make it happen. So I was fortunate enough that as my son was my first son was ready to go off to school, that we could line him up for a scholarship. And it was a bit of a struggle because, he he was a struggle, and I took him up to Hampton University at the very last minute. And they said if he had walked in the door 2 weeks prior, we would have offered him a full scholarship. But I was able to pick him up on an ROTC scholarship. Again, we have different ways that we can help families, get their kids to different levels for scholarship. But he would not have been able to do it without that scholarship. Now, I can tell you there's been some bumps in the road along the way, but, we're fortunate enough to say he did graduate and he's moving into a whole new realm of opportunities. But I would talk to you too about the, not only the bumps in the road, but, where those peaks and valleys took place, things that were long-term strategic, long-term strategy that you as a parent, I want you to look at and embrace. So I'm gonna go to the next chart. This is an eye chart. It's really not intended for you to look at any particular number here. I'm just going to show you relationship. Okay, this is a government pay chart. This is, if you can think of a grade 1, this is if someone is just with no particular skill level but can be picked up on a job for the government, they can start them out at a GS1. And then it goes up to GS15. There are senior executive levels, but we're just going to talk about this right here. So 1 to 15. If you are a college graduate, you get your degree and you start working for the government, where they want to start you is what they call a GS7 step 1. And that salary is $43,459. If you look at where a lot of our community members are right now, that seems like a lot of money. That seems like a good job. That really boils down to $22 an hour. I can tell you that your high school students can get that shortly after graduation from high school if you put them on the track of things that, they're using technology. They like it. You need courses for them. Just do some of these courses that help them facilitate what they love doing. And I would tell you that when they come in, if, like on my staff right now, I have people that really are entering in at least at a GS9, and they don't require a PhD. So here it is, a college graduate is coming in at a GS7, with a 4-year degree at, let's call it 44,000. If they earn a PhD, I can bring them in and they can make 53,000 a year. Now, my question to you is, how much money would that cost for you to get to that point? I know that Hampton University was about 40,000 a year. So imagine going 4 years at Hampton University, 40,000 a year. Where does that money come from if you don't have it on scholarship? You're getting loans. It's not a good position to be in. And again, when you get here, you're starting out at this level. What I'm sharing with your parents is that by your kids learning about this stuff, and again, the barrier to entry is so low now, they can come in and they can move to, these levels up here. My son had scholarships and he ended up paying part of it his own way, but he was learning IT stuff along the way. So starting out at where the government would normally start someone with a 4-year degree is down here at GS7. I can tell you that he's almost doubled that. Well, let's say he's 60% higher in his starting salary because of what he did beforehand. So your kids are already learning classes. They're already holding these things that they love. Again, if you just apply that as their experience, you're going to jump them way ahead. And to be perfectly honest, they don't have to go to college to get in on this level right here. They demonstrate the skills, and the government needs them. I'm going to give you some education and training sources. There's a program called Scratch. And again, I would say from a very junior level, so you have kids that are not in high school, that's fine. Get them on programs, and there's plenty of them. I just have a few. Scratch was done by MIT. It was really to teach students how to do logic. And so they can have these things that they move around. They're creating their video games. You can take their pictures and put it on little things that shows them, and they create their own little movies of themselves in there, or their family, or their friends, and they can make these things do all of these wonderful things, but it's teaching them logic and programming and computer skills at a very, very, very early age. Khan Academy, fantastic. This is from the heart of someone who just wanted to help someone in his family. I found out that other people were paying attention, and it continued to grow. Khan Academy is free. It's got a couple of tracks, and you'll see that it considers it's an AP track for computer science. These things are very good, and it would help them through their college courses if they were taking. But again, it doesn't require that they have college. YouTube, you can look at YouTube for free all day long. YouTube is one of the best universities in the world. And it's just people that have a passion to put out those videos that you can learn from. There's Code Academy, and this is where you start getting into things that you get a base level that's very free, and then it starts to increase by, you have other opportunities that you can pay for. When you go to Professor Messer, Mary's son Brandon was in course with me, and Wanda and my kids, and I taught them A+ through Professor Messer. The curriculum is free. But if you want to get different pieces of it, you can buy into it. As a matter of fact, he says, hey, you can have all my materials for free, but you can pay for it too, so that we can continue to produce this information. So it was inspiring for me that he would do that. And, we contributed financially just so that he can do more of it. Udemy, many people have used Udemy. The courses start at $9.99 per course. And then you can just, take as many courses as you want. That's the baseline course, and it gets more expensive. Coursera is something that I started using recently. I did a training program with Google on cloud technology. My son is learning IT through Coursera, and at work, my staff has converted to Coursera. It's $400 a year, and it's not just IT. It is any subject around the world. There's, I think, 60,000 courses available on Coursera. For your education, at $400 a year, I think it's one of the best investment for any high school student that a parent can make right now. And again, you have world-class schools. You have the MITs. You have University of Michigan. You got Yale. You've got so many other universities that are participating in that program. So this is a great resource for you. There's others, and I would ask that if you guys have other things that people need to be aware of, please share that with me. All right, Herbie, this is really where, we're asking you to rethink your education, rethink education and redefine your life. This is where the barrier to entry is now in our favor. We have the entire world at our disposal through the devices that I told you could be a cyber threat. Now you know how to handle that. The opportunity is you now have a way to look at it as an opportunity. Get your students involved in it. With Herbie, again, you can get all your education done through this platform. Teach them the sciences, teach them the humanities, teach them the arts, teach them everything. Let them experience the world from the comfort of home. But understand this right here. We don't have to go into college debt. We don't have to study a particular track. We can do it all. But again, I think that you guys having this network that you're talking amongst each other, you sharing your experiences is a great opportunity. And so this is where I'll stop, ask any questions. And again, as we start to transition and maybe the students want to come in, I'll take it to the next level. I'll repeat some things, but, I'll really hit, more of some things that I would like for them to focus on. So I'm going to stop and see what questions you guys have.
Joe, I can go first. I was the most inquisitive award winner in 4th grade, and I still hold that title today. So I do have a page full of notes and a couple of questions. My questions they're not related to IT, but they are related to some things that you said I'm curious about your opinion on as far as how we educate our children. You mentioned passion versus talent. And I think I've seen some of that with myself and with my children where they're passionate about something, but they're not necessarily good at it. How do we guide them? Do we say, pursue your passion, or do we say, keep working hard at this until you get there? Or how do we approach that? Just want your thoughts.
Um, there's like a natural process that, you see people on American Idol and other shows where they make the bloopers videos out of them, and that's heartbreaking. Someone told them, baby, you're the best. Get out there and just do your thing. And unfortunately, it doesn't always pan out that way. But if they are around people that give them, that chance to get honest feedback, to experience, I think that's important. And again, having passion and no talent might be a fact that you never really had anybody to help hone your talents. But you also have the opportunity where people can recognize your talents are over here. I would tell you that if I do something the same way that I'm supposed to do as other people, I find that, I know when I'm less talented than the people there. But given free space, I create opportunities that no one's in that space. I'm not competing with anyone. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. And I find that I'm very successful there. So your students have that ability to do that. And again, sometimes feedback has to be, external to the parents. My daughter, she's a fantastic artist. She had this habit of drawing what I call the Cyclops kids. All the girls would have like the hair, the artist would draw the hair swooping over the face, and then there would just be one eye. And that was the theme. And one young girl said, I'll show you how to draw a face. And boy, that upset my daughter. And then from that point on, she really became the artist. And so, it was honest feedback. It hurt her to her core, but it also ignited her fire. And so, talent-wise, it really improved her talent. So, those things are going to happen. Nobody wants to see their kid heartbroken, but sometimes a little heartbreak is the reality that's going to help guide them. And so you don't want people going, you're not smart enough, you can't do this right here, because, sometimes, they do start to believe that they're not smart enough from someone who wasn't smart enough not to say that. And then, our kids start to go, well, someone's going to say that again. Well, give them encouragement. Just get them around enough people that can let them experience, what they're passionate about. And then, again, it's a natural course. I can't say that there's really a good answer one way or the other. My daughter, I think, is, she wants to pursue psychology. And I said, you really have a gift for it. You do. You have the nature of who you are will naturally lend itself towards that career. But I'm so glad that the young girl told her, the Cyclops, I'm going to help you fix that. Because again, she found, how to improve upon her passion.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'll ask my second question, then I'll see if anyone else has questions. Okay, so when I think back about how I was raised and how I came through my career, I remember working really hard through grad school, through corporate America. I worked my butt off. And the reason I did well is because I outworked my colleagues or my classmates or whatever. I was just grinding. And so I always felt like because I was a Black person, I had to do that because my parents told me that. And so I just was grinding so hard, and I still have that mentality. And I think sometimes I push my kids in that way because I feel like Black and brown kids have to work harder. Do you agree with that? Is that still a thing? Was it ever a thing? Or what is your experience with seeing that in today's world?
Well, I have to say, I still live that. You know, I do. And so, like I said, you can find your own lane and you can drive that. And there's nobody that's going to be able to outpace you in your own lane. You know, if you know what it is that you're after, you know what your talents are, and that you can, provide a value back. So for me, in my group, it was really an undeniable value. You showed that. And so a lot of this stuff right now with the capabilities and where our kids are breaking out, an individual can look like a Walmart. Their skills can look like they're so much better, so much bigger. And I can show you some people that have done some incredible things as an individual, and you would swear that they had this whole corporate machine behind them. That's today's reality. And again, I would say that for people of color, this is now the level playing field that we've been hoping for. But you got to get your talents. You know, individually, we may look at something and go, well, that ain't right. And you're not going to spend your money there. So if you become a talent that you expect other people to spend their money there, then be what they would wish for. And there's nothing that can stop you, because right now you can put this whole thing there that they can't tell that you're Black. They can't tell that you're, handicapped. They can't tell that you're, from another country. They can't tell any of these things based on how you can put it together. But you appeal to the things that are important to them. And again, the playing field is leveled. And I would tell you that, a person right now can put together a pretty cheap website to say, these are the things that we do or how, but the reality of the measure is how many people are clicking on it, how many people are asking for that service, how quickly is it growing? And there's no color to define that, and then all of a sudden they find out that it's a 12-year-old kid that's running this enterprise. And believe me, those things are happening. So I think, the opportunity and the political climate right now, is a little disturbing. But with all that being said, our ability to overcome that is really our means to, it's going to require that we embrace what we have readily available to us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I'm super inspired with my long page of notes. Does anyone want to unmute and ask a question of Joe before we get him to speak directly to the children, our beautiful children?
I do.
Go ahead, Mary.
Hey, I'm back home now. As far as the devices, and we'll call you. We've been talking about you too, so I will call you so I can update you. But as far as the devices, is there like a best secure way? I mean, what can you do? I actually was a victim of one of the apps too. It was a flashlight app that I just wanted a better flashlight, and it turned out to be one of the ones that people were using to get information off your phones. But
Imagine
is there
that.
any way to? I mean, come on, really? Is there any best way to secure your Alexa? And you know, 'cause we have an Alexa and all that stuff. And you know, my neighbor, she's an older woman. She has a Ring doorbell because she's older. She needs to tell people, "I'm coming to the door. Hold on." But I mean, how do you best secure those things?
I tell you, there's no one answer. You know, you just have to be aware of, you know, everything is a potential threat just as much as it is a potential opportunity. Um, your threats come in convenience. Every time you make it more convenient, you've also made it more of a threat. So our kids having a cell phone is more convenient, but it's more of a threat. You having that Ring device, you know, people can actually hack into those Ring devices fairly easy if you don't take your actions. You know, so like when you get the device and you plug it in, they'll typically have a default password. Change your default passwords. Your neighbor probably has a curious kid who's probably taking a computer science course and already knows that if he does these things right here, they can own your device. And when we say own your device, that means that they can control it and block you from controlling your device. So those are things that when you first get them, go through. And, you know, a lot of times you can look online just for the reviews. We can really find out a lot of information. But like you said, you know, you've got the flashlight app. You know, who would expect that a flashlight app would be stealing information? I would tell you that any of these apps that you put on your phone, if they're not from a reputable company, and there's truly no way to tell that initially, because it's like, hey, your kid can create an application that becomes a world phenomenal application, you know, just because of their imagination. And again, it's not that they're starting to do anything wrong, but sometimes these devices become popular and everybody goes, hey, everybody's getting this stuff, so it must be safe. That's not necessarily true.
Thank you, sir. We'll just try to keep diligent and do what we can then, and do
Yeah.
more research.
But every device, you know, typically will have a password for the network. You just have to make sure that those are secure enough, you know, to be a better protection.
Joe, how do you
Okay.
feel? How do you feel about the uptick in virtual learning, more children being on the internet and Chromebook for school? What should we do to safeguard? I know the passwords have to be strong, but are there any other apps that we should put on the computers to keep them in a certain area?
So there are things that you can do for parental controls. I haven't been as effective in that. You know, like I said, I'm a professional here, but I haven't been as effective there. So again, all these things have these workarounds, but I would say, you know, number one, have it set where, you know, like you have safe filters. I think that, you know, when schools pass them out, like Google will have safe filters and no filters. If you take the no filters off, oh my God, you know, you want to blush, you know, make an adult blush, but imagine your kid coming across these things. You know, searching for the White House was not always bringing up the type of searches that you wanted. There's whitehouse.gov, which will get you to the right location. Whitehouse.com, well, parents, you have to do some emotional healing, you know, after letting them get to that site right there. And, you know, unfortunately, I've had the cases where the FBI have sent me a notice. Your network is downloading software, you know, which is proprietary software. And again, all those notices that you see at the movies and stuff like that, you know, these kids can log on to that and they get the latest movie that's downloaded. They download it through your internet, and guess what? You know, FBI can, they'll send a nice warning the first time. The second time, you know, you can be dealing with fines. So, like I said, you know, it really boils down to awareness, and the internet as much danger as it provides, it also provides the opportunities to figure out that these things are going on and what to do, but, I thought it was important, especially as school starting up. And like you said, these kids are doing virtual classrooms, do set the filters for their browsers. Look at their browsing history. Oh, this is a telltale sign. When they all of a sudden look like they get real busy when you walk in the room, grab that computer every now and then. Don't let them know exactly what you're doing, what you're clicking on, but you need to be able to see that browser history. If you tell them that you're looking at the browser history, they'll figure out the way to erase the browser history on a regular basis. So, parents, you have to be coy. You have to be able to know that, hey, you can find these things out, and just let them know, I know, because I'm a parent and I'm supposed to. Never let them know how you're knowing.
Thank you for that. All right. Does anyone else have a question for Joe before we have our discussion or chat with the kids? And actually, you can go ahead and round your children up. I know many of us are on mute, and that's fine. So I'll just imagine that your kids are gathered around your Zoom. And while we're doing that, you can think of any questions that you may have. So I'll give everyone a minute to get your little people, and I'll get mine.
So if anybody can just, chat to Shannon that you've got your kids gathered, that'll be a good signal there.
Okay.
Okay, I have my kids here. Hopefully the others do as well, but this is recorded, so we can always listen to it at another time if your kids are not available. I'm ready.
All right. Man, you got Brandon out there?
I'm getting my people down right now. Turn the Bluetooth to the TV.
Hey, the competition is stiff.
I am on the call.
Hey, Brandon, how are you?
All right.
All right.
No, never mind. As you were, sir.
All right, guys. So for the students that we have on the phone, we'll take this light, and again, I want you guys to be able to ask questions about, what's going on. But I want to ask you to just close your eyes and imagine something with me. So imagine having the whole world in your hands, and that you can go anywhere, do anything. What would that be, and how would you get there? I'm going to start with my slides here because, the reality of it is you do have the whole world in your hands right now. Unlike any time before, there is not anything that I can imagine that you can't get through a device that's in your pocket most of the time. And with this, the opportunities are there. But this is a common scene. No matter where I go, I find more people talking, looking at their device, huddled together than I ever see with the devices put down and them talking together. So there's all this information flow. And so what we're really trying to talk about is, hey, what is that power of being able to have these things right here and really put yourself in one of those situations that you go, you know what, I always enjoy what I'm doing. Sometimes we have those tough conversations about what's your career going to be? What's the opportunities going to be? And sometimes you just want to know, hey, I just want to enjoy what it is that I do, and I want to be safe, and I want to be able to make a living doing it. And so that's what we're going to talk about a bit. Now, if we put it down in numbers and say, hey, in that device right there, what are we talking about? Am I talking about it's just me and my family. No, I'm talking about things that affect the whole world. And again, as an individual that lives, my wife laughs at me and says I'm a single guy from Ross Moines, Ohio. Um, Again, I can imagine, what we're dealing with today. And so what are we talking about? So if you look at the world's population, you got 7.7 billion people. And again, about 56% of that world population is in urbanized communities. If you go around the globe and you go to some of the poorest countries, you'll find that they actually operate on more cell phones than they have an easier time with cell phones and internet communications than we do in other areas. So in the mobile users, how are we connected there? So about 5 billion. People that use the internet, you got more people that are using mobile devices for the internet than actually a home computer. And then when you talk about the social media, there's all kind of social media aspects that are out there, but 3 billion in that. And then you talk about stuff that's on the mobile web devices. So the numbers of people that are out there doing this stuff, it's not just you, it's a whole lot of people. And with that, we call it a whole lot of opportunities. So what type of opportunity would you imagine for yourself? I want to talk to you, about opportunities from my perspective. And so, this is something that I have done in my lifetime, things that I could not have imagined when I was, at your ages there. So I laugh and say, really, I spent my time as a daydreamer, and I'm much older now, but I still am a daydreamer. I'm a habitual student. I've been in school, beyond school longer than you guys have been alive. But, at the same time, I see all these things with STEM, and I really start to figure out and get people to believe in things that they can't always see. And so my experience has been, I'm limited by knowing only what I know. So how can I learn more and get out there and figure out what these opportunities are? But I spent about 20 years flying an S-3 aircraft, which is a carrier-based jet. Couldn't have imagined doing that. And I also got a chance to drive and really be responsible for anybody that would drive the aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington. And so big shift from growing up in a small town called Ross Moines, not having the internet, not having, what was really a positive environment to say I knew people that had professions, because it didn't. It seemed too remote for me. And so my commitment has really been, how do I share this world that I've been living with more people so that they can see themselves in the opportunities? So again, you guys probably know quite a few people that have worked in some of the restaurants, or you're not unfamiliar with people that go and work at the restaurants. I would tell you that when you're learning in class right now, the stuff that you're learning, you have the opportunity to do your computer learning. If you're going to do that, study things on, how to do some programming, how to, just do gaming and games. You enjoy games, but, it's still learning. So many of your friends are probably working in fast food restaurants. So average salary over there is $3.33 or $8.33 an hour. And they probably have the same classes that you had. So you can go over there and jump on that track, or you can say, hey, I've learned some of this stuff and I want to actually be able to take my experience and use it in a way that I can make even more money. So if you have the opportunity to make 8 something an hour or 12 something an hour, I think that, the 8 something an hour would be less appealing, but just based on the education that you have, that $12 an hour opportunity is right there for you. So if you look at these guys that are in the picture here, 2 of them are wearing the hats in that standardized uniform, and the other person is wearing a different colored shirt, which also means he's probably making more money. We'd certainly like for you to have the opportunity to look at it and go, hey, I make more money. These people that come in that have IT support for like a Chick-fil-A in this picture right here, they keep those machines running. So they can't do their business without the machines, and they can't run the machines without someone who's going to keep them operating. And that could be you. when we talk about salaries, this is just a sample of what we have. And this is an eye chart. It's not meant for you to really be able to read it, but I can tell you that the upper salary on this is 300,000. And again, it goes down from there, but those are getting into the leadership. Those are people that run the companies or run the IT portions of the operations, but you can get there. Before, in order to make those type of salaries, you typically had to have a college degree. I would tell you now you can get there without having a college degree. And so, but how do you get there? How do you get that type of money? And you may not even be motivated by the money, but again, if you love what you're doing and you're building these things and they keep going, hey, more and more and more, let's do the next one. Let's do the next opportunity. Sometimes you end up in those positions and you go, wow, it's interesting. How did I get here? But doing great things and being passionate and having the opportunity to do it without restriction is a wonderful opportunity. So for those that are in high school, at least, if you're learning a skill, and we have people that are much younger, so what type of skills are you learning? I would say that Python is one of the IT languages that you might want to get into. And then there's Java. And then for those that are trying to figure out something with computers, I would say if anybody's going to start getting a certificate, certificates are very important to hiring agencies. Wherever you go, if it says that, hey, you have a certification behind your name, then they know that you've been properly evaluated to be able to perform certain skills. And so for people that are coming out of high school, I typically encourage them to have a A+ certification. And again, we can talk at a different time about really what that means and how to get that. But overall, I want you to have the opportunity to know that, hey, when you do that, you're not going to be working for $8 an hour. You don't even have to think about that. You can put yourself in a whole different ball game, and it only gets better from there. There's a roadmap that says, hey, if I'm new, where do I start? All the way up to becoming an expert. And the things that are the highest opportunities for becoming an expert is really the most room to grow is in information security and cloud technologies. You might like developing mobile apps, and you can go from there up into the other areas too. But there's where you start and then where you continue to grow, and what calls you, what would allow you to say, I'm truly an expert. Some people can make we say, what's the difference between being a professional and being an expert? A professional is going to get paid for it. An expert is really someone who knows a great deal about it. You can have experts that work for free. A professional is someone who's getting paid. All right, now we're starting to see these things at Walmart. You can see them all over. This is a virtual reality. I would tell you, if I go back here and I look at this chart, virtualization is mentioned down here at the under Python and VR. This is exciting because this is a relatively new field. And again, you can be very engaged in this. You guys are gaming with this stuff already. I'm going to show you a cube. This cube right here is something that I'm just holding in my hand. It's about a 4x4 cube that has all these things on it, but it's made by a company called Merge. And with this, they have them in the schools, and they show you like augmented reality. So right here in my hand, while it's this cube, I can use an application on my phone, and this could be an airplane on the screen for me. So it's like I'm holding an airplane. I could be holding a heart. I could be holding a building. I can be holding a car. Whatever it is, I can be holding this on this cube, and it's in 3D, and I'm turning it around. Well, that's virtual reality. You guys are seeing a lot of this stuff with video games that you have now. So going from, hey, the idea of you're just playing, let's talk about how you can put the stuff in there so that you're playing with it, other people are playing with it, and it's your own creation. So in the schools are now starting to pump this stuff in. And if you guys have this collection of students and this passion, part of what I do is I go find people that will provide the resources to make that happen. I just need a structured program from parents and, a group, that can sustain, the idea that if we do it, we're actually going to put them on a training track. We're going to say that they started here and they completed here. But again, age-wise, we can start at a very young age all the way up to the point that people are professionals. This is something that's very real today. So you put on the virtual headsets and you can see the hearts, you can move things around. So medical professionals have really embraced this right here. But what they need is they need people that are going to be able to, help design software, help design the headset equipment, help design the environment, the programming, and all these pieces that allow that to happen. And again, it shows up in video games, really awesome capability, and it's truly a job opportunity. I talked to your parents about, what the idea is about going to college or learning these skills right here. In college, sometimes it has where we, can I afford college? Am I going away to college? How do I do that? Well, now at home, you have everything that college students are learning today, especially in this COVID environment. And COVID environment, they're doing virtual training. So what the universities are doing, you guys have already been there. And all the courses that are available to you are going to allow you to do that. But I would ask you, what is your passion? What makes you get up and say, this is what I want to do? And then two, is your passion tied with a talent? Sometimes, we have these great talents, but we're not as passionate about our talent because we are more passionate about a different area. So how do you marry that up? If your passions and your talents align, then you can be most anything. And so how do you pursue what it is that you're looking for? Sometimes just say, I truly want to be excited about what I do, but I have a talent. I may have a talent for playing an instrument, but I have a passion for playing sports. Those are things that you have to look at. I was talking to your parents about the idea of coming into a federal job, with a 4-year degree, and we put them in this right here. It's not really meant for you guys to be able to look at all this, but I have examples of people that, even though they have a 4-year degree, because of the experience that they gained through homeschool and learning about some of this information technology, they actually make 60% more, and they're way up over even what they would have made if they came in as a PhD or a doctor. And again, when you think about how much college costs, college can be $40,000 a year, but with all the stuff that you're learning at home, you can stay on the same type of cycle, but just increase the number of things that you're allowing yourself to explore. And again, it's free. It doesn't have to cost money. But if you spend some money, you can get a greater opportunity. So here's some of the training courses, that are available. So Scratch, you guys might already be familiar with Scratch. Again, you can put yourself into some of these kits and then, really have an opportunity to make movies about yourself. But you can go up and it's really teaching you things that are far more sophisticated later, but doesn't have the type of graphics, but it's a great starting point. Khan Academy, for those that are already familiar there's computer science courses on that, great opportunity. But with YouTube, if I wanted to learn something more about how to use these cubes right here, this cube costs $20 and you can get it off of Amazon. You can go on YouTube or on the internet and learn how to do projects with this stuff right here. So that's a great opportunity. And again, this is where you get into virtual reality. Code Academy, you guys may be aware of that. Professor Messer, again, for getting an A+ certification, a great opportunity. Brandon Singleton is one of the guys that went through training with me for Professor Messer. Again, great opportunity to learn a lot of stuff about the computer. Free. If you want to go a little deeper, then there's more opportunity to learn more. There's other courses online that, they charge you by the course. So cheapest course is $9.99, and again, you work it out with your parents. And then there's Coursera. I have a high school son who just finished high school, and he's entering college now. But he used Coursera to learn a lot of stuff about IT. So it's a great course. Even for me professionally, I've been around for a while. I use Coursera, and again, it's not just about IT stuff. It's stuff for all of the education around the world. So the cube is called Merge. And so I'll try to share some information. I'm asking my wife, Wanda, to take some notes so that I can, everything that I say, I need to get back to you on. I can, do that. But Merge is an interesting thing because, like I said, if I shine my phone, I have an application on my phone, but this would look like a heart. It would look like a beating heart. And as I turn it around, it's in 3D, but this thing has markings on it so that it can actually do 3D. So it's a fantastic learning opportunity. They use it in the classroom. It's more of a structured learning device. But again, as Herbie, if you guys want to explore some opportunities, I can continue to work with you so that you can actually take it to the next level. But you guys have these students. I have probably a little bit of library of opportunities that you guys can take a look at. But for the students, it's really, really a great opportunity for you guys. And so I really want to see what type of questions do you have. I wanted to just throw some things out there that you can think about, but what type of questions do you have? So if I were to ask a question, I mean, again, you see all these things that are available, numbers wise, those are pretty big numbers. So some of it, I talked to your parents before about being safe with the opportunities. For you guys, I would certainly say that, if you had a passion and wanted to pursue, what would you pursue? Should I go into programming? Should I go into like more technical skills of what to put together? What if I don't have any passion for it at all? I would say that there are very few things that don't have some connection to, the IT or the cyber. So if you say, hey, cars, now there's a whole lot of computer and programming that goes into all of the cars. As a matter of fact, the Tesla cars are going to be completely autonomous. All of that is a big driving computer. As a matter of fact, not a single person has to be in a Tesla car for it to drive from one place to another place. That's pretty interesting. It's also pretty scary because another person can hack into that system and take control of a car that doesn't have a person in it. So those are the differences of what's taking place. So would you like to be the person that can create a car that can be autonomous? Would you like to be the person that's preventing someone from taking over control of the car that's completely autonomous? Would you like to build a car? Those are all things. Would you like to be able to sell a car? Would you like to be able to design a car? Would you like to be able to ride in a car? Those are all different questions that, we have to face one at a time. But again, hopefully some of this stuff will give you, an idea that there's a place in this world for you to do that. And again, it's resting in your hands. So where can I turn to get something that's going to help me identify I'm going to use this when I go forward? Say that again.
Joe, that was me. I accidentally unmuted. My kids enjoyed your talk. They didn't have any questions, so they're being a little shy.
Well, believe me,
Hey,
I
have a
know that to
question.
be true.
Can you hear me, Joe?
I can.
what about people, kids who may say, well, I don't really have anything to do with technology, or I don't want to have a job in technology. What would you tell them? How would technology affect them if they don't want to do something that's directly related to technology?
um, I wrestle with that myself because I've certainly heard those things. And again, my kids have grown up with me doing this type of stuff all the time. Dad, I don't want any part of that. Well, uh, my our son Joshua just graduated from VCU, and he had some very interesting outbursts to say, I don't want anything to do with any of that. But because he has a background in that, he's found himself a very comfortable opportunity with that. And he was originally telling me he wanted to go be a politician, and so all he needed to do was study political science.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, I said, you actually have a gift in understanding mathematics and other things, sciences, that other people just can't even imagine. And, he was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I said, no, I'm not. It's really your choice. But, when I give you this range of options and you make your choice, make a wise choice. And then he jumped into physics, and I was like, oh my God, I threw him out there in the deep end and he can't swim. But he actually got his degree in physics.
Oh, wow.
But if it was physics alone, he would have started out as a GS7. But because he had the experiences through IT, the same person that should have started out as a GS7 for his field, he's now a GS11. And that is an incredible jump in salary. And so, that's one of those success stories, and saying, our kids won't always know what the right answer is. They're gonna fight you with emotion. They're gonna tell you, I don't want anything about what you're telling me to do. But you're just giving them a foundation. I have another buddy that I say, if I'm in STEM and I'm at a, Shawanda say you're at a 10. Well, I would show you a 100. And so he's the guy who's my go-to, when I'm having conversation. And I asked him, I said, let's talk about our kids. I said, did your kids follow you in this? He said, no, they ran as far away as they could. And he told me, he said, the funny thing is today they both work in STEM fields.
Oh, wow.
One works on he makes his money off of YouTube. He develops YouTube content, programming and stuff for people. And the other one develops mobile apps. He said they've been surrounded with it all their life. They wanted nothing to do with it, but that's what they do professionally now. And, again, there are other cases, and like I said, with my kids, I have the ones that say, I really don't want to do it, but every opportunity that comes to them is because they did it.
Thanks. Appreciate that. We consider you the guru guy, so if you have a go-to guy, I'm really scared of him. But thanks.
You know what? Again, sometimes you need people in your life, that you go, hey, am I getting this wrong? And they'll laugh and go, I've been down those same roads. I had that same pain, but you know what? It all works out.
Great, thanks.
So it sounds like our kids still need a baseline in IT, even if that's not their passion or interest, because that's how it's going to help them be successful later.
I would say if they have that as, one of their cornerstones, they will never be denied, because again, they have a skill that they can work with. It's like if someone has a hammer, opportunities to start looking like nails, and they can just start tapping away, because, they will reach a point where, I would say, put it in your tool bag. You may never need it, but to become an adult and start to really look at those hard things. I think a lot of people right now, their careers have certainly been changed by technology. There's a lot of things that we used to do that are being superseded by the changes in technology. And so if our kids have a foundation, when they start to see the earth start to shift underneath their feet, they will catch their balance with something that was part of their foundation.
That was an awesome analogy. And I'm glad you said that, because I do see a lot of posts, Joe, about parents being concerned about technology, but the fact is we have to have it. And I know we have pretty much 90% of the devices that you discussed. And I like that about exposing my children to technology, because I want them to have that information, or the know-how and the know-how. I'm about to make up a word.
You say.
But I'm glad that you're positioning this with us, that it's not just the scary part, but it's also the opportunities and the necessity factor that's there as well.
And again, I do program. So, one of the things that I would say is if you can formalize the setting, and sometimes you just say, hey, we have a group of kids that want to do this right here. I have hands-on experiences that they can do, but the goal is really for them to move beyond their comfort. Kids don't have to be comfortable with everything that they do. Math is not always comfortable for everyone, but you would hate to give away more money than you meant to because you weren't really good at, your own math. There are certain things that you can make as an advantage. We're all consumers of the technology, but sometimes you can be a producer too, producer of content, producer of opportunities. I think that our kids right now have the power that no one can take anything away from them when it comes to IT. If I have to depend on being at a work site, that can be taken away from me because COVID. If I have something that's in my head, they can't take that away. IT allows it to be in their head. No one can deny them the information that they gather, and the opportunities for them to use it does not have to show the things that other people would go, hey, the excuses are gone. They don't have to look at them and say, our kids don't have to be concerned, I didn't get it because, I think that they had a bias. Sometimes it's not even that they're even aware who is producing this thing that they're mass consumers of. And so the opportunities are there. And like I said, it's just one of those things that we no longer have to be fearful about how they can be successful.
I love that. Thank you so much, Joe. I'm very much inspired by everything that you shared, and I learned so much. I'm sure we all did. I will definitely post the PDF since you gave us the permission to do so. And whoever emails me and wants the contract that was in the PowerPoint, I'm going to pull that out and I can email it to you. So just let me know. And Joe, if we want to reach out to you, for a professional question or, a follow-up question, is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I can pass to you my contact information. And again, my wife, Wanda, she'll certainly give me a to-do list.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I think we cleared the chat. I do see a link to the mergeedu.com cube. Thank you, Wanda, for posting that. And I just wanted to talk about our upcoming events. We meet every Friday for just a hangout. So after today's session, we will get together on Fridays for probably like 30 minutes to 45 minutes just to check in with everyone, see how you're doing. Extremely informal, chill, just pop in if you want to, ask a question or tell us how your week went. And that will be each Friday at 1 o'clock. and those will be posted in the group, in the group page. Also, the events will have a password on them going forward. So make sure that you see the password before you try to get into the Zoom meeting. And I cannot think of anything else. So does anyone have any closing thoughts, comments, questions?
Thank you. This was awesome.
Yes, thank you, Joe, so much for your time and your expertise. It's
Well,
amazing.
thank you for inviting me. And again, I pray that you guys just continue to stay together and just continue to look for opportunities. You know, if ever I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Wonderful. Well, everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you again.